Hello and welcome to Two Whole People. I'm your co-host Connor.
And I'm Kevin.
And on this episode of Two Whole People, which is a show where we talk about data science, programming, software engineering, Python, SQL, databases, tables, all sorts of stuff.
Nerd stuff.
I am a data engineer. I've been so for about 8+ years now. Data engineering, BI work, database dev stuff. I have a master's in data science. So if you were wondering why you should care at all about what we have to say about coding things, well, that's my portfolio-esque type thing right there. So Kevin, why should we care about you at all?
You shouldn't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a full stack engineer for a startup. I also run the product management and all of the fun product stuff. So I kind of, if you guys are ever on a product team or something, I do from the engineering all the way up to the product manager position.
He's the boss that you just love to hate and you hate to love.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. The guys will tell you that.
Yep, I've spoken to the people that work for him, and man, oh man.
And man, they hate me.
And they love you.
And they're watching this right now. And
But
they'll probably comment on it.
Well, that's okay. Well, anyway, in this episode, we just gave you all of the reasons why we're great. Now we're going to give you a couple of reasons why we're not so great.
Yeah,
we want to talk about a couple of the bugs that we've encountered, but it's also kind of, I think the list that we thought through was certain events that were our fault and there were our mistakes and how we messed up like a production environment, and then how we fixed it
before anybody noticed.
Yeah, as fast as possible. Panic. So essentially, we wanted to talk through what were some of the major bugs that we fixed, and also what were some of the major mess ups that we made that we had to try to clean up.
Yeah.
So anyway, did you want to kick us off here on your first mistake?
So my first one, I was testing data for like in my local environment. You guys will you all know that there's a sacred rule that you always make sure which environment you're in. But I was being dumb, and I had on my database manager app, I had two tabs open. I had the production tab open and my local environment tab open. And all I was doing, I was just getting a SQL dump to update my local environment so it was on track with production. And it was probably 7 a.m. And I had switched up the tabs. So I exported from my local, which I thought was production, and I imported into production.
Rough.
And I didn't realize that had happened.
So what you were trying to do, and for those of you who don't know about what we're talking about, test, prod, dev, QA, types of environments that you work with as a software dev. I also think primarily as a database dev, although just probably as a normal dev you just experience. So we can talk through that at some point. We won't now, but if you want to learn, or if you want to have us go through what all these environments mean and what they're for and how to best use them and why we have a bunch of environments for the same app, why you would ever do that, we can talk more about that in the future if you just leave a comment.
And why you don't keep them both open.
Yeah.
At the same time like that.
Yeah, and to that point, I wanted to ask, so you were trying to export data from a production table into a development one. Yeah,
so I was...
which makes sense. If you're trying to dev out a new thing or whatever, the prod data, if you test with that in your dev environment, then you know that whatever you're doing works with the production data.
Yeah, so the background behind it was we noticed a bug in our activity log. It was... In production, it was returning stuff that was 2 weeks old. And in my development environment, it wasn't. It was working fine. So it had to be something with the data. So I exported the data, or I tried to export the data. And I ended up overwriting production with my local data because I had switched up the tabs like an idiot.
So this was a bug that turned into a mess up.
Yep. So I mean, I was developing with it, and I noticed that production started working all of a sudden. And I was like, that's super weird. And then I don't know, like, how you, like, if everybody in your company takes everything super seriously when you're on your local environment, just in case this happens. But I was on the production site of the app, and I was looking in, like, our little activity log that we have on everybody's dashboard. I was looking at it, and I started seeing some joke names that I had put into my local while I was testing. And I was like, oh, no. And luckily, the fix for this one was super easy because we, every time that I mess with anything in the database, and this is a good practice for all of you guys, always export or like always back up your database before you start messing with anything or transferring data. Always do that. So it was super easy. I just restored from a backup. Nobody had done anything, and it got fixed right away.
Yeah, and just so you guys know why that's such a panicky moment is because the production environment, that's the customer-facing one. So, like, if you log into Amazon to purchase a good or something, you're logged into the UI or the website that is on top of the production application. So if you affect the production application, that's customer facing, and they can see what is going on in that environment, and it'll probably affect, like, you know, like in the case of let's say a shopping cart or something, it's like that data is stored in the production table on the back end. So if a person replaced all of that data with some dev data, then like all of a sudden in your cart you might see just like a bunch of nonsense. Like what's happening, and then you don't use the site, and then you lose customers.
So for me, it records every time we updated something. So there was just a bunch of names of doctors, and one of them was like Dr. P.P. Willingham, and
so it's not just a bunch of nonsense; it's a bunch of inappropriate nonsense.
So we got real lucky that I fixed that before everybody got into work. But yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, nobody noticed. We got no complaints from customers about it. The CTO didn't notice. Nobody noticed. So if they ever watch this video, I'll be outed.
There's one customer out there that saw for like half a second. Like it refreshed.
Dr. P.P. Willingham. And then he refreshed and it was gone.
And he never saw it again.
He's been searching our app for Dr. P.P. Willingham this entire time.
Oh. All right. Well, I had a scare that was a lot like that as well, where so we have a database that we use in-house at the company that I work for. So it's not really customer-facing, but it's internal customer-facing. And what that means is we have teams of people that work for us that use the database and the data there to make dashboards and perform analytics and make data science models and stuff. So it faces the customer, but you know, the customer for this particular data set are people that work for the company.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, you know, a huge panic.
Well, I mean,
but it was still a panic because it was like hundreds of people.
Yeah.
But okay,
your fingers start to sweat. My fingers started to sweat.
I know, I'm sweating just talking about these things. So what had occurred is I was trying to update a data flow process. So like an ETL process. So there was a table, there was a stored procedure that I was working on where I had to transform the data in some way, and then I had to dump all of that data once it was transformed into another table. That process was already there, and my job was to go in and to make an update and to make sure that it worked. And I was doing this in test. I was deving in test, which was probably already a problem there, but I was in the test environment.
You're in the test environment.
I was in the test environment. And but once I had gotten through my change, I had to perform a backfill in prod. So in test and then in prod. So I had to make sure that, all of the data that was in this final table had to reflect the new code change.
Yeah.
So we had to backfill everything, and it took a while in prod, and then or in a test, and then when I got to prod, I just truncated not the stage table that I was gonna make sure that it worked first,
and then
get it all in there, and then do a quick hot swap after. So have a stage table where I load all of the new data in, and then after that, because it takes a couple hours for it to run, and then after that, just do a quick rename or something where it's I'm just going to rename the table so that it's a hot swap in there, and then so people who are trying to access the data don't ever see any change. It's just
all of a sudden
they would see a change in the data based on the changes that I made, but they would just the table's always been there.
Yeah, the table would just work.
Yeah. But I truncated right away. I truncated the actual final table. And I was like, oh no. Because it takes a couple hours for this to run. So this is not good. This is really bad. And it was a table that was used people at in the office are determining how to sell certain things based off the table, live at that time, right then, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I was like, oh no. And I can't just run the scripts. It'll take 3 or 4 hours for it to populate again. So then I had to go to my boss, and I went, boss, man, is there any way to recover if you truncate a table? And he's like, in what database? And then I told him. He's like, no. I was like, okay. And he's like, what happened? And then I told him, and he was like, that's not good. I was like, I know. He said, you got to be more careful. And I said, I know. And he's like, it's okay. We'll tell everyone, and then we'll start to run that code now. And I was like, I already did to repopulate everything. And then he's like, we'll just send out an email to everyone that touches the table. And so I had to send out the shame email where I was like, hey guys, you can't do your job for another couple hours because the data that you use to do your job isn't there because I truncated it
because I broke it.
So yeah, that was fun. But my boss was cool, and all he did was just make sure next time if you truncate. And I was like, okay. He's like, okay, it's fine. It's like, okay, but just tell them.
Yeah,
it's okay. And they were all fine and nice, and they didn't what the hell? I'm not going to meet my marks, or I don't know, something. They weren't mean to me, but
that's good.
And and they also weren't mean to me because they were a lot of them were excited about the new changes. There were some new data points that were going to be added to the table. Okay. So they're like, that's fine as long as I get my new data. I don't care. But yeah, it was definitely a bit of a heart attack because I was like, oh, it's gone.
it's gone. It's all gone,
and I can't get it back.
Did you do the refresh, close the app, open it back up just to see if maybe?
I mean, I did a select star from the table a couple times, just praying to
refresh,
data Jesus,
run current.
But yeah, no, it was gone. But but then it ran, and then it, I got back in there, and then I've been more careful each time that I have to do a thing like that, where it's I have to perform a swap, or I have to perform a backfill, or I have to even if I have to truncate and reload a table, it's I'll wait to do it until the end of the day, or a half hour after 5.
Yeah.
If I know that all the people that are going to be using it are on their way home or something, it's well, then that's fine. So.
Yeah,
it's fun times.
It is fun times.
And I think maybe we do have more stories, but I think maybe we just do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, we can do a part 2.
I say we call it.
Call it?
I say we call it before we drop our production databases again.
True.
But yeah, anyway, if you want to hear more about any of the concepts that we talked about, or if you want to hear more
stories about us
how we
being
failed,
stupid,
then just let us know. or just like, or just subscribe,
hit
or
that
tell your
button.
friends, your coder friends, about this cool new
these cool guys who sit in a corner
like
and talk.
I think we're like every week to 3 weeks there'll be a video. So we're not going to flood your feed. It's just, every once in a while.
Yeah, we'll pop up.
Yeah.
We'll be in the mix.
Yeah. All right, take it out, Kev. What's the outro?
We're going now, and we'll be back. So look at your screens and hit the comments.
Hit them hard.